see. Oh, we can view the post. Click at any time to view the post on Facebook. Great. It's all very new. Hello, Internet. Hello, world. I am Jennifer with Keymaster Games, and I am here with Melissa and John Meek, who were cast extras on... you're going to have to tell me the correct way I'm supposed to identify who you are. But you are cast members of Stranger Things in this past season, and also fans of Keymaster Games and Campy Creatures, and we're really excited to be talking with you. So thank you for coming and joining us. Me.
Absolutely.
I'm the royal me behind you.
Yeah.
Or Matt and Kyle and Maddox, and they're really excited for us to be talking with you too. So thank you for joining.
Yeah, thank you.
So to give people a little bit of an overview, again, I have some screenshots. Thank you for providing me. I'm just going to give everybody a quick show. I did this fancy thing so I can show people who you are. So in case you're wondering who we're talking to, or to be able to pinpoint who we're talking to from screen captures from the TV show, we have, let me see if I can make this work. It'd be awesome if I can make this work. There we go. So we have John first. There he is in the background of this first shot. We have a dark scene. I think this is from episode 1, you said, right, John, where you're in the lab.
That's correct.
I don't know if you can actually see what I'm putting on the screen or not. So.
I don't think so.
Okay, but it's a dark blue screen. I think this is from season 1. And
episode 1, yep.
Episode 1, in the opening scene. I don't know how many spoilers we're going to give away here, but...
Everyone should have seen it by now, right?
And that's right. You had plenty of time to watch. And then here we have a really nice shot of Melissa next to a Russian guard person with a fake
from
weapon.
episode 5, I believe. Yeah.
From episode 5. I think that's a really nice profile picture of you. Profile of you. So that's who we're talking with today, which is really awesome. Thank you so much. For a little bit of backstory. Oh my gosh, I have to make sure that... Perfect. Just extra work things that don't matter for me right now. Sorry for the distraction. So for a little bit of backstory, we were at Gen Con this year, and John, I believe you came up to the booth and you got to talk with Josh Emmerich, who is the artist for Campy Creatures.
I did. Awesome. Yeah, so I visited the booth a couple of times. I was there I was there because I love coming to Gen Con.
Perfect.
Oh, it's fun. You should go. But yeah, I was there. Got to meet some of the staff there. Got to meet Kyle, and then came on Saturday. Got to meet Josh, which was really cool because the thing that drew me to the game, a Campy Creatures game, was the art. Like the fact that when my buddy bought it, he opened the box and showed me the inside of the top of the box, and then it had art in there. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm going to be buying this game. That's just awesome. But to get a chance to talk to him, it turns out that he and his family are huge Stranger Things fans. So I was there on Saturday in a kind of a homebrew costume, dressed as my scientist character, just sort of for fun. And he was really cool. I told him the story about being on set and about carrying. I actually carried one of the Demogorgon cards from Campy Creatures in my pocket on set. In fact, it's in my pocket in that shot you just showed.
That's awesome.
And so,
let's go back to that. Let's look at that.
Yeah, you can totally
see it in the pocket.
No, you can't.
If I can
buried under the lab coat, but it's there. In fact, it is.
That's where Demogorgon is.
It is this one right here, because it was my green one. Because This is my favorite. Yeah. And so he was really cool. He did something I didn't expect at all. He was obviously excited and everything, and so he said, "Hey man, let me do something. You sign a card for me, and I'll sign a card for you." So I signed a Demogorgon card for him, and then he signed another one for me. So yeah,
perfect. In that beautiful pink.
In that beautiful, it shows up on anything.
It does.
It's versatile.
That is not sarcasm. I love that pink.
Yeah. But yeah, it was neat. His daughter was there too. She was dressed as 11, so we all kind of took a big group picture. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
That's awesome. So, so in all those times, but the moral of the story is that I did not get to meet you in any of those moments. I was somehow away from the booth. But ever since I heard that you had stopped by the booth and this story came up, I've been dying to be able to talk to you more. Josh is a big Stranger Things fan. I and my wife are both very big Stranger Things fans. So there's definitely some unanswerable questions that are going to come up. I don't expect for you to be able to answer them. It's just for fun because it's Halloween.
We'll try. We'll try.
So is it cool if we just there are some questions that we've talked that we've thought of that would be like, this is our moment to ask these questions. Can we just dive into things?
Sure. Go for it.
How did you, the both of you specifically, so you're married and you both ended up as extras on the set of Stranger Things. How did that come about for you?
Yeah, apparently it's pretty rare to have a married couple as extras. But actually I learned about it through a friend who lives in the area because they film it in Atlanta. And she told me about the Facebook page, which you can just follow, anybody can just follow their Facebook page. It's Casting Tailor Made.
Mm-hmm.
And they just put posts of all their productions that they're doing. And they probably have, I don't know, it seems like maybe about 5 or 6 going at any time. And so you just follow the posts, and if you see anything that applies to your height or your size or your color or whatever, you can you can put in your information in their database, and then you can apply for it. And it seems fairly easy sometimes.
Yeah, it turns out she looks like a nerdy female.
Yeah,
that's what the post was.
They
Nerdy
had
female.
a listing up for nerdy female, yeah. Or nerds. I think there were 2 separate ones. There was male nerds and female nerds. And I was like, oh, I could do that. And it also seemed, there's something written about the post that seemed like it would be a small group thing, which was enticing to me because I'm like, I don't want to be a lost face in a crowd and like spend all that time, although it would still be cool to be on Stranger Things no matter where you are, I guess. But it would be even cooler if you could actually be seen. So I was like, I'll apply for that. And I think it was just like the same day, later that day, they sent me a text. And I had applied for some other roles before, too. And so I was like, I don't know if I'll get it or not. But they sent me a text, and they're like, you're in. And I was so excited. It was like, I was shaking, and I was like, oh, my gosh, I've never done anything. Well, I've done some acting, like, amateur, just, like, making videos with my sister in high school before. But I've never actually been an actor. So it was really, really exciting. I was kind of nervous. I was like, what am I going to have to do? Am I going to have to, like, know how to act and stuff? I don't know.
Just look serious. There's a lot of that.
But I didn't know exactly what my role was when they gave it to me. All I knew was, like, nerdy female. So I'm trying to figure, like, am I going to be a teacher in the school? But I think it takes place in the summer, so I don't think we're going to be in the school. So I was trying to figure out what we were going to do before we were there. Wow. So, yeah, it was really exciting.
Was it the kind of text where you had, like, 5 seconds to reply before they moved on?
I felt like I did, yeah. But sometimes they take a little while to get back because they're, like, organizing all these big groups of extras because there's so many productions, and some of them are huge groups of people. It sounds like kind of a scary line of work, like organizing all these people.
A hectic job, for sure.
Yeah, very hectic.
But yeah, you did that a couple of months before I got to be involved. I was taking care of some family stuff on the weekend, so I was trying to be at home as much as I could otherwise. And so she was able to go down and participate a couple of times.
It was last August.
Yeah, back in, yeah, it was when you started.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was, and then she finally,
I kept telling him, I was like, you need to do this with me. And he's like, I'm busy right now, but maybe later. Hopefully they'll have other roles. And
I'm busy being a good son. You know, I mean, come on. Can't argue with that. And,
I was like, okay, maybe they'll still have some roles. I don't know how long they're shooting for. And so I just kept telling him about it.
Yeah, and back in, so last October, it just so happened they were going to do some pickup shots with second unit and needed some additional nerdy males. So I got in, and lo and behold, we ended up being booked for the same days after that. So that was really cool.
Oh, so you were on set together.
Yes, even though we weren't actually in any scenes together.
We sort of were. That shot in episode 1, just before then, the camera tracks through the anteroom to the control room there.
It's
and
like a
she's
split room.
Yeah, she is in the background of that shot. So we technically are in a shot together, sort of.
I'm not very visible. It's like the back of my head, and I have headphones on, and I'm like working with plugs or something like that.
Yeah, there was that wide scene that you showed me. That's it's.
Yeah, that was
I decided not to include it in the setup because it's like dark, and you gotta be like,
it's pretty dark.
At the darkness and be like, you're right here.
Yeah.
That blur right there is.
Yeah.
She's actually in 2 places at once in episode 6 because there's a shot in a kind of the main hub area where she's up on the second floor gantry for something, and then like the camera goes up the stairs, and through movie magic, she's also in the control room. So, but those two shots were like, quite a while apart, actually.
They kept calling that room the Death Star room.
Oh, yeah, the Death Star room.
That is 100% what it looks like.
It was surprisingly a really, really large set. And there were different, of course, little, like, nooks and crannies of different rooms, but it was all together, like, the whole underground Russian thing was a pretty large set.
Yeah.
And then looking out from our little control room over where, like, the gun is, which they have some bits to the gun, but a lot of it was CG.
Yeah.
And then there's just, like, this panel that's kind of this really cool, like, indigo bluish purple color. That you're looking at, and that's where, of course, like, the rip is, and then, like, the gate and all the crazy special effects there. But yeah, it was a really long space. It was in this huge warehouse. It was really fun to be there. It was really surreal. Like, it was kind of like you're in real life, but it feels like you're in a dream in real life at the same time.
Yeah. It's weird.
Well, because you're in a giant warehouse, and you're like, I could be in a total
but in
different
Stranger
world right
Things,
now.
and you're Russian.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great lead in. One of the questions we had was about working with a green screen. So, Melissa, you mentioned that you've actually, like, don't really have any acting experience. So what is it like to go onto a set where you're having to work with tons of things that are just going to be, like, illuminated by special effects in post-production?
It was super fun. There was only that one spot, I think, that had a green screen or the blue screen or whatever. And so, like, they tell you just enough that you need to know how to react to it, because they're still trying to preserve, the artistic quality of the story, because they don't want to ruin the story for us to watch later. So they tell us just enough of, how to know how to react to what we're looking at. So it wasn't really, like I said, I'd amateurly acted before, so it wasn't really that difficult for me. And I'm just that kind of person that I love Stranger Things and I'm into it, But when the actors were around, so I was there when principal cast was there. It was kind of like a little bit like I was too aware of myself, and I really wanted to go up to them and be like, "Hi, I'm an extra, and you don't know me, but I'm in this with you." So that was probably like, it was just like a little nervous. Like that was probably the hardest feeling to get over, I guess.
Yeah, there was the assistant directors and the various folks there would give background instruction for different things, but it was a lot of it was just, okay, stare at that green cross on the blue screen and look scared, or look in awe and just kind of stand there. And I was specifically told not to react to what the two Russian guys were going to say, because it was like you're just too in the moment, seeing the gate opening up or beginning to open up. And so yeah, it was cool. The stuff we did, as usual, there's a lot that was shot that wasn't used, but they shot a lot of coverage in the control room for episode 8 of just stuff freaking out and the different techs there, reacting to things. And part of it, I asked, like they told us, okay, you've got the laser out there, and so we saw where they had built all the lighting rig for it, just so it threw practical light around the room. And then they had this really cool display that was sort of an illustration, or supposed to sort of represent an illustration of the laser. And so I just simply asked them, like, okay, like which end is the business end, And
yeah, we're trying to figure out like the plot too of what's going on around us.
Well, but it was just part of it was just like, okay, if I'm going to pretend to be running this, like I want to, feel like I have can make up some story about like, okay, this is the pointy end of the stick. Okay, that's the end to be scared of. And this is the end at the back, and that's the end closest to me, and that's the end that's probably going to blow up. So, okay, like what parts should we be reacting to, kind of thing. So, yeah, that was part of it, and it was. We have small kids, so playing pretend is something we do all the time. So it was, for our part anyway, it was easy.
True.
So having kids is a great primer for acting as an extra in TV shows. Got it.
I guess. Yes. Yeah. A lot of pretend.
But it's really surprisingly easy, because they're kind of just like, you send them a picture and they're just kind of judging like by their description and kind of how you look. Because I didn't need to send any kind of resume or have any experience really, which is cool, because sometimes they just need loads of people to fill their scene. And that's what sets the scene. And like the actors will say like, we need you guys to make us feel like we have something to kind of work off of with the scene and feel like we're actually there to do our acting job, which is cool.
Nice.
So, yeah,
that's cool. So that was your primary interaction with principal actors, was them being like, thank you for being here.
Well,
they didn't actually say that, but I've seen them say that in like interviews and stuff like that talking about. Not with me particularly, but I did have a one-on-one interaction.
I was about to say, if we're going to talk principal or interaction with Principal Cast, she's got to go.
It was so cool. So it was.
Oh yeah.
So when I was first there in August, it was kind of the big hub scene where everybody's just kind of milling around and the kids are sneaking through. So that was the first time I kind of saw them actually on the set that I was on. And so we're just kind of walking back and forth and they're sneaking around and I'm just watching them kind of sneak, and that's all that we were kind of doing in the same scene together. But when we were doing in the control room scene, I think it was close to the one where they're looking through the really skinny window out, and like Gaten says, or Dustin Gaten is this actor.
Is that like through the door?
Like,
was it through a door?
They're looking through the window.
Yeah,
and he says, "Holy shit," or "Holy shit," something like that, like several times. I heard him say that like 2,000 times. And then they like look at each other and they're like, "The gate," or something like that. It was around that scene where I was sitting in the back at like a control panel, and I was just kind of waiting there for them to tell me what to do, and they didn't tell me to get off the set yet, so I'm just kind of waiting. And there was another group of extras in the other room, and they're kind of going back and forth doing their scene. I think it's the one where they run really fast, and then they go out to the gun.
You're bearing the lead here.
But so they were in between takes, and Gaten and Joe, Steve and Dustin, were like making their own little movie, I guess, like their version of Stranger Things. And so they were using Joe's camera and just like acting whatever they wanted to act in the scene and doing the stuff. And Gaten walks by, and he's like kind of got his head down. He's like, "I really want to punch somebody." And I'm sitting right there. Like, he says it while I was sitting right there in the corner. And I was like, "You can punch me." And he was like, "Really?" Ah. And then like he and Joe come up and they're like setting up the scene, and Joe's like directing the scene around me. And so they did the scene where Gaten punches me and I fall over my control panel. But I don't know where it went. Like I asked them like what they're doing with the footage, and I think they said they were making it for one of the directors or something like that. So I have no idea where it's gonna go. Maybe it'll be like in like extra stuff on like the DVD or the Blu-ray that comes out for everything. But I'm like, man, I wish I had like. But they also tell you not to really like interact with them unless they interact with you. So like I didn't want to ask too many questions and be like, can I connect with you somehow to get it, like to see it or whatever. But anyway, it was really cool, and he like Joe showed me the playback on his phone, and like I got to meet them both and shake their hand and be like, "Hey, that's cool." So it was super fun. So it was really fun because after that scene, every time I was like up in the control room and Gaten was down below, Dustin, he's down below, he'd like look up and he'd wave at me like we were friends, and I was like, "Oh my god, we're best friends." So he's my favorite.
Because you let him punch you. Got it.
Yes.
Because I let him punch me.
I was a little sad that I never got to work with Principal Cast, because I really wanted an opportunity to go up to Gaten and, in my best dad voice, say, "So what's this I hear about you punching my wife?"
Yeah, it was super fun.
Well, in that side scene that we have the screenshot of, right? You're next to what's his face, the doctor for the season. I'm
next to Alexi. Yeah,
Alexi. Yeah. So you're kind of like, he's basically Prince. Like, come on, he's beloved now. So
he is. That's true. That's true. He is the true hero of season 3.
That's right.
That's true. So I did technically work with Principal Cast. Yeah. He unfortunately the days that they shot that, and there's a scene earlier in that episode where he walks into the room where the guy's on the radio doing the message. I was out in the hub, kind of as background back there, but you can't see me. They just had him going around shooting a bunch of different pickups, so I didn't really get an opportunity to talk to him. But the actor who says in Russian, "Beautiful, isn't it?" in the scene that you showed a screenshot of earlier, he actually got to hang out with us in the control room for a while, and he's worked a bunch of TV, and he was like, "Look, if you can," he is from, I think he said he was originally from Romania, but he said, "Look, if you can fake a good Russian accent, it's like you can get work."
We'll use you for all kinds.
Yeah. There was one of the soldier guys too that worked. He was there every day. I don't know if he worked every day I was there, but he was there every day I was there. That they used him for a bunch of different stuff, and because he could actually speak, like he was a native speaker, native Russian speaker. So that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Yeah.
So another question is, and we're gonna totally like circle back to Campy, but there's some more.
No worries. Yeah, I have it right here.
There we go. There it is. So behind the scenes, like when you're doing those, when you're filming those scenes that you're in, how does that work? Like I know that's something that's really interesting for people. It's like, are you just on set all day to be in milliseconds of a scene?
It depends on what they've got for the scene and how long it is. I was on there like almost the entire day for 2 days when we were doing the milling around scene, because there was a lot of people to instruct and to redo all the stuff, and the principal cast was there, so they had to make sure they got it right, so they didn't have to do it again on another day that the principal cast wasn't scheduled and all that kind of stuff. But I was on my feet for like most of the day. It was kind of painful how long we were just like on our feet in these 1980s shoes that didn't actually fit me. I had to put like a Kleenex in my toe to make it not fall off every time I went up the stairs. But yeah, that was the longest day, and just it's funny because they have to like sometimes it takes longer to reset the scene so they can do it again, and the actual action doesn't really take that long. And it's funny now, I'm trying to remember this quote that we were laughing about. So when I was sitting in that corner before I met Gaten and Joe, I was sitting next to the guy that keeps everything in focus, who's called the focus puller. And
he has a name. It's Emil.
Emil, yeah. I was trying to remember his name. I was like, and he was showing me like what he was doing. He's like, you probably think this is boring, don't you? And I was like, no, this is actually super interesting. And their faces look really cool in the monitor that he's looking at, because it like highlights in like almost rainbow colors all the little things that they're trying to keep in focus. But later he said, when we were going through so many long takes, he said, it's not the take that takes the time. It's the time between the takes that takes the time. We just thought it was so funny. We just kept repeating it the whole time.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, 'cause they've got lighting and they've got to make sure all the costumes are still good for the kids after they're doing their actions, and just trying different angles of things and more than one camera sometimes, and different ideas from the director. So, but yeah.
Yeah, it's well, and then there's days like there was a day I worked where I didn't go on set once. They were shooting some of the fight at the end of episode 8, and we saw they had photo and stunt doubles there from photo and stunt doubles of principal cast members, and they were doing a lot of stuff on set. So we're like, yeah, we're probably not going to work today. But I
had one day that I was there too, and unfortunately, it was the day Winona Ryder and David Harbour were there. So I got to hear them do a scene, but I didn't actually get to be in a scene or in the background of a scene that they were in. And but I was down there listening to them on the other side of the wall. It was just a day that they called us down when they didn't even. And
that's like, but that we figured out that scene had to have been the one in episode 8 where like they're about to go do the big dramatic ending. We'll say.
It was cool to hear them doing the scene together. Yeah. And I actually almost ran into Winona Ryder, and I didn't know that it was her at first because she had the uniform disguise on, and she was kind of blurry and it was dark because I was walking like around in the background, like to the bathroom actually, and I almost ran into her and I was like, oh my gosh, that soldier was really short. That must have been Winona Ryder.
Like, aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?
Yeah, and then I saw David Harbour just kind of walking, like lumbering off in the background too. So that was my story about them. He does a little bit, yeah. He's just kind of like little big footy.
Not a small dude. Not a small dude.
Kind of like you, but heavier.
Yeah,
like he kind of lumbers a little.
I could see that. Well, and with that's a great dichotomy for them, right? Because Winona is so small and short, and he is so tall.
Yeah, they're a funny couple.
Yeah, they're great. I wish they were a real life couple. Honestly, I'd be okay with that if it happened.
Yeah.
So I probably should take the question: did David Harbour want to play Campy Creatures off my questions?
Sadly, we did not have the opportunity.
I feel like he probably would love that game.
I think he would, yeah.
Since he's not left here to talk for himself, we'll just assume that...
We'll assume.
In the absence of evidence to the contrary, I'd say yes.
That's right.
100%.
So how did that work? Then I assume this like extra time that you're talking about, where sometimes you'd be on set and not necessarily have anything to do, were these opportunities to play games?
Yeah, and that was actually a lot of what they do is, or a lot of your time as an extra is spent in holding. So it's an area just off the set or out of the way that you're just sort of sitting around. So a lot of folks would bring a book, or some people would work remotely. They'd bring their laptops. So we had one of our friends who, I think she was studying for law school, or she was studying for the entrance exam for law school, and so she's there, head to toe Russian uniform, and just flipping through her study guides. But we just took down a bag full of games, and not surprisingly, considering the sort of folks that would want to be doing this sort of thing all day,
Nerds.
Campy Creatures, right? Nerds. We started playing Campy Creatures, and yeah, I mean we played it. I think we played. How many does it play? 5 players? Yeah. Okay. I had to look because I was like, we had 5 or 6 people playing, but yeah, it's a 5-player.
Yeah.
Tops out at 5 players. We had 5 folks playing that had 4 of them had never played it before, and just they had a blast. And of course, the Demogorgon card got a laugh, but just yeah, we got to play that quite a bit with some of the extras. Few other games, but we're not going to mention those. Those not as fun.
It's okay. We're fans of games here. We can take it. We're okay with that.
So that one was definitely in theme.
I think we took down Guillotine as well. It's another one I think we played.
Yeah,
it's a great quick card game.
It is, and that was one that you just teach it in 30 seconds, and then you play around, and immediately they know what to do. I was trying to think what else. There were a couple other small ones, but we mostly tried to keep it light because you didn't know if you would just see that one of the PAs start walking towards us and like, oh, okay, we're probably about to go, or he's gonna, or about to just be told to get out of costume and thanks for your time. I mean, we get paid either way, so that's fine. But yeah, that was a lot of waiting around and holding and eating really good catering.
It was really good.
Food was so good.
I wasn't there the day that they had this, but I heard another extra talking about how they had Captain Crunch encrusted chicken.
What?
Which sounds weird, but apparently it was really, really good. And it's just kind of funny because I wonder how much catering the catering does because there's kids on set. Because they have fruit roll-ups and stuff in the snacks area too. It's kind of funny.
Yeah,
okay.
We try to guess. Yeah.
Question I didn't know I wanted to ask was what were the best foods that you ate while on set?
Ooh. All of it was ridiculously good, and it was the choices. So breakfast was whenever the shooting day was supposed to start, like an hour or two before the shooting day was supposed to start, or before call time. So you would it didn't matter if that was going to be noon. That would be breakfast. So you would roll in, and there would be a brunch or breakfast food available, and then
I'm trying to think of what
about 6 hours later they would do lunch. And again, didn't matter what time it actually was. And the lunch was always just so many different options of different foods, all of it amazing. I sadly didn't get the Captain Crunch chicken either.
Yeah, I would have tried it.
Yeah, it was,
it was really good
crazy.
apple pie. I think it was an apple pie.
It was crazy.
They had a bunch of desserts every time too.
Yeah. It's there's no one standout, just in general the catering was oh my gosh, this is so much better than I expected. I was expecting little box lunches and fire festival style.
But you have to buy your own lunch. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I thought that there might be a non-zero chance of that
Millie
too.
Bobby Brown? No, you have to buy your own lunch.
Correct. Yeah. No, it was awesome. It was really, really good food.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. I watched after Game of Thrones ended, they did that documentary. I think it was a 2-part documentary. Maybe it doesn't matter. Anyways, they did it about Game of Thrones, about filming the last season, 2 seasons of it, and they spent a lot of time looking at extras and just the whole set, the scene. So I assume this waiting room is similar to, there's a scene there where there's basically just a picture of people all clad in massive armor and swords and helmets and stuff and leather, and they're all just shere on benches, rows and rows of benches in a tent, just
it was just waiting. Cafeteria tables most of the time.
Cafeteria tables in a rundown warehouse where we're all dressed in costume, probably catching Legionnaire's disease. That's really basically what it was. Real glamorous.
Awesome.
The building itself was a little it was in a shady part of town, and one day when I was driving in, there was a hair weave going across the street. Yeah,
just blowing tumbleweed. Tumbleweave. Yeah.
Tumbleweave, yeah.
There we go. There's the joke.
Oh, man.
But, the building itself was kind of, run-downy. But then once you get on set, you're, completely transformed in this different world.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Oh,
they were also building the funhouse mirrors and stuff in one of the other rooms of the warehouse. And, one day, when I was there in August, They took.
We have a train, by the way. I'm sure you can hear right now.
That's okay.
Sorry.
I have
They
my surrounding noise.
they had a separate room where they were doing 3D scans of people, and I don't know how they used them. I don't think they ever used mine, but they scanned me. So it's like this big, like dome, like a globe sort of that you step into, and then there's like these, like a cage sort of, and like on all the rungs of the cage are all these cameras, and they all take pictures of you 360, which was pretty cool.
So they're going to build a 3D
think...
model of you. This is the way Netflix is trying to save on extras in the future. When we
I don't
just
know, like they still have that footage.
Yeah.
I could still be in season 4. I just have no idea like what they're doing. I never saw myself anywhere that I wasn't actually. So in season 3, so I don't know. We'll see what they do with it.
Wow.
I expected to see myself like flying out from like some explosion or something.
Yeah, that's what we were hoping. It was like a quality on-screen death. A little hard to explain to the kids when they're older, but whatever.
We'll see.
So tell us. We've talked a lot about Stranger Things, but this is not what you do full time. And we love all things creative at Keymaster. So we'd love to hear a little bit more about Paper Truly and the business that you do when you're not in Stranger Things.
Yeah. So Paper Truly was, she started it when we got married.
Basically, Melissa is the star of this story, and you just
basically
you just dropped her off, and then basically got an extra role.
It's essentially, yeah. No, we started about 10 years ago. Yeah, it was right after we got married, so it was about 10 years ago that we started the company, and she was just doing a lot of different things, kind of wanting to see what stuck, and lo and behold, wedding invitations are what stuck. So back in 2011, we changed our name, or 2015, sorry, we changed our name to Paper Truly, and we do a lot of just really cool, like mostly nerdy invitations. We take different, inspiration from a bunch of different things and try to remix them a little bit, like not necessarily doing mashups, but taking the for example, what would a wedding invitation in Middle Earth look like? Mm-hmm. Like if elves were to do a wedding invitation, what would it look like? And so that's kind of what we went with one of our designs.
Kind of like an elegant spin on the nerddom realms, kind of. But not all nerdy stuff. Some of it's kind of vintage because that's still kind of popular. Mm-hmm. Like we have a passport design for travel. There's a lot of travel weddings, so just kind of real different, not your standard. I don't think we have anything anymore that's a standard 5x7. No. We have one that's kind of like a telegram that's kind of that way, but it's like an old-fashioned telegram, which is fun. Every
time we try to do it as like a regular sort of 5x7, flat card design, it never sells.
Well, there's so much competition for that stuff out there now, which is why I started switching to real different stuff.
But our goal with them is just that whether it's a nerdy inspired invitation or a vintage style invitation, whatever it is, that the key is that you can receive this, not know what it's referencing, and still enjoy it, and still be able to appreciate like it as a piece of created print. So
so you have a Marauders map, right? A Harry Potter. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I may or may not be a fan of Harry
We
Potter.
call it romance managed.
It's romance managed.
We don't want to break it in copyright.
It's a very magical wedding invitation.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry. No. It is a not Harry Potter wedding invitation.
Yeah, whatever it is. It's not. It's a magical map. Is what it is.
It's very good for Harry Potter fans. We'll say it that way.
Yeah, but I think that's a prime example though of one that you get that and you're just like, is this a treasure map? Like, what is this thing? It's really cool. You don't have to know anything about Harry Potter or any other magical thing it could possibly be. But yeah, that's been something. I mean, we want to do that one because like we don't just want to rip off other ideas. It's just she had the idea of like we watched the Harry Potter movies and she was like, that would make a really cool wedding invitation. What would that look like? So we worked through that, and so she does all the designs and all that fun stuff. I get to help a lot with the engineering and figuring out how things are actually going to go together and
if it's actually going to be cool or a good idea.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. A lot of that. So I've learned I never argue with her about colors, and she never argues with me about engineering, and so it works out.
That sounds like a very balanced relationship.
Yeah, we try.
It does look real. Like I was looking at the not Harry Potter card, and it looks awesome. It really looks like a great tactile experience where it's got like multiple folds going on that you like you're uncovering the invitation. It's really cool.
Yeah, thank you.
We like the interactivity rather than just looking at something. You kind of, I just like that level of interactivity with the piece because it makes them more excited about the event.
Yeah, we're working on one for this upcoming engagement season. That is, we don't have a sample here to show. Unfortunately, it's being printed and foiled rather. but we're doing essentially an origami style. So the interior envelope is a piece of origami that opens up, and then you have a foiled card in there. It's just really it's really cool because Melissa worked really hard to take some of the lines and some of the geometry from the origami and bring it into the design of the piece of the card itself, so that everything kind of ties together. Because we had seen some things that used maybe a similar origami fold or something, but like the cards themselves didn't seem to fit, or they didn't tie in, or there wasn't that thread running through the whole thing to really tie the whole concept together. So that's really been a big thing. And we do a lot of custom invitations too, and that's what you always are on the customers about, okay, let's figure out your theme. What is the theme? You've got all these things you like.
People go crazy with custom sometimes.
Yeah.
But they overwhelm themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's easy to dream big.
Yeah.
It is.
Especially when you get the nerds, you want to combine all the fandoms into one thing.
We've
had the Lord of the Rings with a little TIE fighter in there, a little Ewok somewhere. I don't know.
It sounds like me trying to sort out my tattoo.
Yeah.
I need it all, but not overwhelming.
Yeah.
It needs to be tasteful.
And so I'm thinking tasteful, not overwhelming, but also sort of elegant, if that's kind of their style, if they want that. But it's kind of tricky sometimes.
Do you have a Stranger Things, a non-Stranger Things, Stranger Things?
We
did one for our birthday party this year.
Yeah, actually, I can grab it.
Yeah, grab it. So we always like to do, so we both have the same birthday, actually.
Whoa.
Same year, same date, everything. I'm 10 hours older.
10 or 12, I think it's
10
12.
or 12 hours older. And our kids also have fall birthdays, so we always try to do a big, costume, big, interesting invitation party, interesting theme. And this year we did a trip to Atlanta and to see all the sets.
Field guide thing. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is it focusing?
I don't know if it's focusing or not, but
it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So the booklet is the guide to all the stops that we made and what times we're going to see everything, and a little bit about the actual sets and stuff like that.
Let's see.
Can you get it from the?
I can. It's hard to hold it and do it at the same time.
Yeah.
And try to watch my shot here.
It's got a little
so
moving
creative
reel.
and interactive. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and the kids love playing with that too.
Yeah, so we've got pictures of and little snippets we wrote up of the different places we went.
Yeah.
And a itinerary that we, immediately just completely blew up. Whatever, it's fine.
But it was super fun. We always try to do something really different like that. The invitation will obviously lend to, because it's just a different kind of theme for our party.
Yeah, we've had some ideas for some stuff that's kind of related to Stranger Things, but again, it
was hard to work out that one.
It is, because it's really more, again, with our philosophy of not we never want to make something that's just a complete bootleg of something else. Mm-hmm. That's uncreative. We've had people steal our ideas and try to make print at home bootleg versions of our ideas, and that's no fun. So we want to be very respectful of IPs and instead be inspired by these thoughts of what in this world would an invitation look like. And so with Stranger Things, it's kind of tough because it's okay, well, 80s, okay, fine, but trying to give it a theme and trying to really tie it in, and we've gone back and forth on a couple of different ideas, and just off camera, actually, I see a whole drawer full of things up on our shelf here that's just full of sketches and ideas and stuff for this concept, because it's just really, it's really hard. I mean, it would be one thing to, obviously this was specifically a personal thing. This was a fun project, that's all well and good, but we wouldn't sell something like that because besides being full of stuff that, we don't own, it's not really like an invitation. It's not really like it doesn't say anything about the larger world that the story is in. So that's a big deal for us in figuring that out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it sounds like you've really made nerd culture in your lives collide with just about everything that you do.
Yeah, we really have.
We are huge nerds. We
got to keep life interesting.
We were not the popular kids in high school. I mean, at least speaking for myself, Melissa may have been, but I certainly was not the popular kid in high school. So.
Thank goodness high school does not define the rest of our lives.
Yep.
High school was better for me. Middle school, not as much.
Yeah. I can't say the same. Both are pretty bad. So yeah, that's why we relate so well to the kids in Stranger Things. In fact, in the very beginning of the very first episode, where the boys are freaking out because they rolled a die and it fell off the table, and they're all just freaking out about, oh my god, what did he roll? You know, it's like I have been every one of those kids. That's
I don't
me.
know which Stranger Things character I am. Who would you say?
I don't know.
Have you taken one of those Facebook quizzes to
No.
I haven't.
I definitely after season 2, I've really began to relate to Hopper quite a bit. Being the dad of a daughter, it was like, okay, yeah, that's a thing.
Yeah.
In fact, for this party, we went in costume, and I went as Hopper, and our daughter, who is about to turn 6, Melissa made her a awesome season 1 11 dress, like the pink dress with all the ruffles and all the stuff. So, yeah, those were our Halloween costumes this year. I'd say, I don't know, you in some ways you kind of are like Dustin.
Yeah, I dressed up as Dustin.
Yeah, in some ways you are.
Can you sing the whole Never-Ending Story song?
I don't know if I can remember all the words.
that was one moment of the show that really, like, okay, so speaking of nerddom, I am in real life I'm a ham radio operator. It's just a complete hobby. Been one for over 20 years at this point.
Okay.
And
your
so yeah,
late night talk show with
yeah, right.
Listen out there.
I wish. No, I am on a podcast, but it has nothing to do with ham radio. But yeah, just when the two of them are singing back and forth, I'm like, you can't do that. You can't do that. So, but
they couldn't hear each other. It's only one.
I had to just tamp it down, enjoy the moment.
That's right.
If I will accept Russians boring a hole into another universe in Hawkins, Indiana, then I can accept them singing back and forth and just get over it.
They could just be really, really well timed. Come on. They've
Maybe.
obviously been practicing.
It could just be the editing.
They spent all summer practicing.
That's true. Yeah, they had plenty of time. I mean, what else are you going to do at computer camp?
Yeah.
I guess.
Probably not very much else. long downtime.
Yeah.
Melissa and John, it's been really, really awesome talking with you, and I really appreciate you coming on here and taking the time to sit down and chat. I know there's been a lot of people watching who've had a good time too. So if you guys don't mind just hanging out for a second, I'm just going to end the show,
sure.
this show, and let people get back to whatever it is that they're doing. For everybody else, have a great Halloween. If it's raining outside, I hope your costume is waterproof, because I know you're still going out and trying to party tonight. Have a safe Halloween. I hope you get all the candy that you want and dream of. And and if you don't own Campy Creatures and Expansion 1 are available right now from us online on our website, or you can buy it in Barnes & Noble or at a local retailer near you. If you have a hobby shop that you love and you love to support, please go give them some business and grab a copy of Campy Creatures. There is no time like the present. And have a great rest of your day. Thanks, everybody.